Greetings, friends. You are on Ruslan Belov's channel, and in today's episode, we will analyze the situation in Ukraine in detail as of January 30th, 2026. Over the past 24 hours, many significant and high-profile events have occurred, so I suggest we proceed to reviewing them without delay. Undoubtedly, the central theme of today is the so-called energy truce between the Russian Federation, the United States of America, and Ukraine. A unique trilateral agreement format that looks quite unusual. I would now like to present my own vision of what is happening and share my personal conclusions. My understanding of the situation at this point already differs significantly from both official statements and the information being disseminated in open sources. The President of the United States, Donald Trump, speaking from the Oval Office in the White House, made a bold and unexpected statement. According to him, he personally reached out to Vladimir Putin, most likely during a phone call, with a request to refrain from strikes on Kyiv and several other cities, as well as to cease attacks on energy infrastructure. As Trump claims, the Russian leader supported this initiative. The following line of events then develops. Early on the morning of January 30th, Volodymyr Zelensky issued a statement thanking US President Donald Trump and effectively confirming the existence of certain agreements related to the energy sector. At the same time, he emphasized that the agreement was not reached directly between Ukraine and the Russian Federation. Rather, all discussions and negotiation processes were conducted exclusively with the American side. Zelensky expressed his gratitude to Trump, noting that he had done significant work and played a key role in these arrangements. Nevertheless, parallel reports indicate that on the night of January 30th, the Russian Federation carried out another massive strike on Ukrainian territory using unmanned aerial vehicles. The Ministry of Defense of Ukraine reported the launch of 112 drones. At the same time, pro-Ukrainian sources clarify that the strikes targeted primarily military facilities rather than energy infrastructure. The main part of the attacks targeted the southern regions of the country, primarily the Dnipropetrovsk and Zaporizhzhia regions. The author of the video materials claims that another Russian armed forces drone was recorded in the sky over the Dnipropetrovsk region. In the presented footage, presumably filmed on the night of January 30th, explosions can be seen near the settlement of Vasilivka. Additionally, a section of the M30 highway in the direction from Pavlohrad to Pokrovsk is shown, where a hit and completely destroyed fuel tanker truck was captured. The Ukrainian side further confirms that, as of now, the M30 highway from Pavlohrad toward the front line has ceased to be safe for travel. If we estimate the distance from the forward positions of Russian troops to the location where the fuel tanker was destroyed, it is approximately 66 kilometers. This means that a significant territory, right up to logistics hubs such as Sinelnikova and Pavlohrad, is effectively under the control of Russian drones. Such a situation significantly increases the logistical tail and creates serious difficulties for supplying Ukrainian units located along the front line. A noticeable gap is forming between forward positions and rear infrastructure. Supply units have to cover distances of hundreds of kilometers several times a day to deliver necessary resources to combat zones, and judging by the available video footage, they are not always successful. Now let's move directly to the line of military engagement. The most intensive developments today are observed in the Zaporizhzhia direction. This is where the loudest and most large-scale news is coming from. It is worth noting the significant changes in the map configuration. If we compare the situation on January 29th with the position at the end of January 30th, serious adjustments become visible on both the western and eastern parts of the Zaporizhzhia sector. This morning, the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation reported that Russian units managed to significantly improve their positions near the settlement of Rekhnoye, a small village that became the subject of operational changes on the map. As of the evening of January 30th, no video materials confirming this advance have been published. However, the further development of the situation requires monitoring. Based on the official report, a corresponding map adjustment was made. At the same time, no changes were made in the area of the settlement of Primorske, since from the very beginning of the battles for this settlement until now, no confirmed information has been received regarding the advancement of Russian forces in this specific sector. From this, one can assume that the Russian side may have bypassed Primorske from the flank, thereby cutting it off from supplies and the main line of communication. If we again compare the map at the end of January 29th and the end of January 30th, the differences become obvious. Simultaneously, Ukrainian sources are publishing geolocated materials from the northern part of Stepnohursk, where FPV drone strikes on forward Russian positions were recorded. One of the strikes hit specific engineering structures, which also influenced the initial map adjustments in the morning hours. Later, following the Ministry of Defense report, the zone was further shaded to the north. In the current map configuration, the distance from the presumed forward positions of Russian units to the city of Zaporizhzhia is approximately 11 kilometers in a straight line along the M18 highway through the settlement of Hrihorivka. Ukrainian mapping services are also expanding the so-called grey zone toward Orikhiv. According to pro-Ukrainian cartographic sources, offensive actions from Stepov, Pavlovka and Maly Shcherbaki are gradually intensifying. Almost this entire section has been marked in grey as of today. It is assumed that Russian forces are striving to reach the road between Pavlovka and Maly Shcherbaki to improve their own logistical capabilities. Next, attention shifts to the East Zaporizhzhia direction, where key events are concentrated near the settlement of Ternavate. The Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation, as well as telegram channels associated with the Vostok grouping of forces, published messages and video materials dedicated to the battles for this settlement. Summing up all the incoming information, according to these sources, Russian units managed to significantly strengthen their positions in this direction. Based on the aggregate of official statements and accompanying materials, another map adjustment was made. While at the end of January 29th, the configuration of the territory looked different. By the end of January 30th, almost this entire zone was completely colored in, reflecting the change in the operational situation. Thus, we can observe that Russian units have managed to establish control over an important strategic settlement, the village of Ternavate. This is a fairly large settlement, which is already the second largest on the Ukrainian side of the Haichur River. This territory can potentially be used by Russian forces as a staging area for personnel and equipment for further advancement. If we look at the Huliaipol-Zhelizhnitsny line, combat operations continue there, while the situation around Ternavate, judging by incoming information, is developing in favor of a complete loss of control by the Ukrainian side. It is from the area of this settlement that a possible further advance to the west, in the direction of the city of Zaporizhzhia, can be seen. Along the chosen trajectory, the distance to the city is approximately 63 kilometers. Moreover, we are already talking about operational maneuver room, since, according to available information from open sources, 2 key lines of defense have been overcome. The Haichur River, with its system of fortified positions along the coastline and the railway line. Thus, according to the available information, both of these defensive boundaries have already been passed, and further movement is expected in a westerly direction. Attention shifts to the area of the settlement of Konstantinovka, from which significant reports are also arriving. The Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation today released information regarding the advance of Russian units within the settlement of Bereztok, located in the southern part of Konstantinovka. However, no video confirmation has been presented at this time. We are talking about a small village, but its location is of tactical significance. The day before, some experts holding a pro-Russian stance claimed that Russian troops had managed to gain a foothold on the outskirts of this settlement. Already today, reports are emerging that Russian units are continuing their movement and are approaching the southern outskirts of Konstantinovka itself. Based on the aggregate of reports, publications, and materials from open sources, corresponding changes have been made to the front line on the map. Russian forces continue to form a bridgehead directly along the city limits of Konstantinovka, and in the near future, attempts to enter the territory of the city itself cannot be ruled out. Simultaneously, both pro-Russian and pro-Ukrainian sources are circulating video materials showing the consequences of combat operations within the city. Significant destruction is visible in these frames. Numerous damages to buildings, blown-out windows, and traces of airstrikes, including the use of heavy aerial bombs. At present, the city appears heavily scarred by the hostilities. Another notable video also arrived from the northern part of Konstantinovka, which is divided by the Kryvyi Torets River. The presented footage captures a drone strike on explosives placed under a bridge along the riverbed. As a result of this strike, the bridge was destroyed and sustained serious damage. This episode is of substantial importance, as Konstantinovka is effectively divided into 4 separate sectors. There is the northernmost sector, located closest to the main supply territory, as well as the northwestern sector. It is through these 2 directions that the primary logistics are carried out to the 2 southern districts of the city. The southern part of Konstantinovka has repeatedly been a subject of discussion in previous days, as it is there that the most difficult situation is observed. The southern district is separated from the central part of the city by a significant number of water barriers, ponds and the river, and supply is carried out through a narrow corridor. At the moment, this corridor is reportedly under the surveillance of FPV drone operators. In addition to this, another sector stands out, the eastern part of the city. There is a trend toward attempts to isolate this area as well from the main territory, and the destruction of the bridge may specifically indicate a desire to disrupt transport links. Next, the Sloviansk direction is considered, where minor adjustments provided by pro-Ukrainian mapping resources were recorded. According to their information, Russian forces are advancing toward the next defensive node, moving primarily through fields and exerting pressure on individual positions, some of which are becoming encircled. As a result, the so-called grey zone has increased without a clear fixing of the line of control. It is possible that in the near future, these territories will be further clarified by other sources. No significant changes were recorded in the Kupiansk direction. Then, attention shifts to the Sumy sector of the front, from which more reports are arriving daily. During the past 24 hours, drone strikes were also recorded here. The author of one of the videos reports that after conducting reconnaissance, a target, an air defense position of the Ukrainian armed forces, was discovered and subsequently struck. Regarding the changes on the map, the main events are developing along the Grabovskoye-Ryasnoye line. This is how the map has been adjusted over the past 24 hours. According to pro-Ukrainian mapping sources, Russian units are gradually moving beyond the limits of Grabovskoye and closing the distance to Ryasnoye. Additionally, the grey zone to the south is increasing. According to the same sources, it is reported that Russian forces have established control over a number of forest massifs and tree lines in the area of the settlement of Dronovka. Thus, one can speak of the gradual formation of an envelopment of Ryasnoye from several directions, accompanied by an increase in the intensity of combat operations. Notable information also appeared, circulated on the pages of several fairly reliable pro-Russian Telegram channels. According to these reports, the Ukrainian side is increasing the activity of its units in the Kharkiv and Belgorod directions. It is recalled that a few weeks earlier, the commander-in-chief of the AFU stated that winning the war solely through defensive actions was impossible and allowed for the possibility of conducting offensive operations. In this regard, a number of experts are suggesting that against the backdrop of discussions regarding energy infrastructure and possible events in early February, the Ukrainian command may undertake a limited offensive operation in the area of Belgorod and the border territories. It is this sector that they view as a potential zone of possible escalation. This concludes the review. Thank you for your attention, thank you for watching, subscribe to the channel and support it with likes. All the best to you.